At exactly 3:18 a.m. on March 7th, 2021, the lights went out across 5 square blocks in downtown Toronto. A rolling blackout. They called it nothing unusual. But behind that brief flicker of darkness was the single most devastating theft ever committed against a transnational drug cartel. Without a gunshot, without a getaway car, and without a single dollar of physical cash being moved. Authorities would later discover that $22 million vanished from a sophisticated cryptocurrency laundering network during that blackout, and the person responsible wasn't a professional thief or cartel insider. It was a 42-year-old single mother named Arielle Cross, a civil engineer employed by the city's Department of Infrastructure and Grid Management. Arielle didn't carry a weapon. She didn't break any locks. She didn't even set foot inside a cartel location. What she did was reroute power, manipulate server timestamps, and quietly vanish. With the digital keys to millions in crypto that the cartel had spent years laundering through mining farms hidden in plain sight across the city. No one saw her coming. No one has seen her since. And what the investigators uncovered in the days that followed shattered everything they thought they knew about cybercrime, motherhood, and just how far someone will go when the system fails them. This is the story the Canadian government buried under sealed records and classified reports. Welcome back to Untold Crime Vaults, where we uncover the most chilling, bizarre, and mind-bending true crime stories the world was never meant to hear. If you enjoy real stories that sound like movie scripts, heists, vanishing acts, and conspiracies no one saw coming, subscribe to the channel, smash the like button, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a single case. Today's story takes us to Toronto, Ontario, one of Canada's most technologically advanced cities, where an entire criminal underworld relied on the silence and stability of the electrical grid. A world where Bitcoin laundering, shell energy clients, and underground server farms kept a dangerous cartel rich and invisible. That all changed when Arielle Cross decided enough was enough. By all appearances, Arielle was unremarkable, a quiet woman in a gray utility uniform, always on time for her shift at Toronto Powerlink, the city's aging but essential grid authority. Divorced, overworked, and raising a teenage daughter with autism on a technician's salary, Arielle had spent years fixing what no one else noticed. Failing power nodes, miswired circuits, and systems that hadn't been updated since the early 2000s. But Arielle also noticed something else. A series of power requests from locations that officially didn't exist. Buildings with no registered tenants, consuming the kind of energy you'd need to run a hospital or a high-security data center, or a large-scale crypto mining operation. What started as curiosity soon became suspicion. And by the time Arielle realized what was really happening, she wasn't just a technician. She was the only person who knew how to shut the whole thing down and how to take everything with her. Arielle Cross was born in Brampton, Ontario, to a Jamaican mother and a French-Canadian father. She grew up around blueprints, circuit boards, and the humming tension of machines that never slept. Her father was an electrical technician for Ontario Hydro. By age 11, Arielle was disassembling microwaves and rewiring light switches. By 16, she was a top student in her high school's engineering track. She had the brain for Silicon Valley, but stayed in Toronto for a much more pressing reason: her daughter. In 2008, Arielle gave birth to Juniper June Cross, a sweet, bright-eyed child with an early diagnosis of sensory processing disorder and later, autism spectrum disorder. Arielle's husband, a finance consultant, couldn't handle the demands of raising a special needs child. He left within the year, paying the bare minimum in support, and moving out of province. From that moment on, Arielle worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3, just to keep up. She took on city jobs that offered stability and benefits, even if they didn't pay what she was worth. In 2014, she landed a full-time position with Toronto Powerlink, assigned to grid diagnostics and remote infrastructure monitoring. It was dull, lonely work, just the way Arielle liked it. From a dim office lined with monitors and maps, she tracked fluctuations in voltage, identified faulty transformers, and rerouted power when demand outpaced capacity. She had access to most of the city's backup generators and emergency protocols, which very few people knew how to use. Her daughter June was her world. Every decision Arielle made came back to one question: what will help my child survive? By 2020, the answer changed, because surviving meant disappearing. And to do that, Arielle needed money, a lot of it. It started innocently enough. In September 2020, Arielle received a routine notification, an automated energy alert from a commercial property at 146 Dorset Lane, just outside Scarborough. The location was flagged for pulling nearly 1.3 megawatts per hour, the equivalent of an entire shopping plaza. The problem? According to city records 146, Dorset Lane was listed as vacant. No tenant, no billing client, no recent permit activity. Arielle flagged it, issued a maintenance ticket, and moved on. A week later, another site, this time on Melrose Avenue, pinged with similar activity. Again, no listed tenant. Again, megawatts of consumption. Again, silence. Arielle was meticulous. She cross-referenced billing records, service maps, and traffic cams. What she found made her stomach tighten. These weren't abandoned properties. They were active, but the exteriors had been covered to look like boarded-up businesses. Security cameras were hidden in fake utility poles. Deliveries arrived at night, and the people bringing in equipment? Always the same profile. White vans, black SUVs, no logos, and always with dark-tinted windows. She dug deeper and found at least 8 more properties tied together by one chilling thread. They were all drawing power through false meter IDs. Most of them mapped through a legacy system only a handful of people still knew how to navigate. Arielle was one of them. She cross-checked the grid nodes. Someone had rerouted high-volume power lines to these ghost properties using substation override codes, which meant someone inside PowerLink or with access to the network was helping them do it. But who? The deeper she looked, the clearer it became. This was no ordinary scam. It wasn't someone stealing free power. It was a network, and the equipment she identified inside the buildings, based on heat signatures and voltage draw, was unmistakable. Cryptocurrency mining rigs. Thousands of them. The cartel wasn't moving money through briefcases anymore. They were turning drug profits into Bitcoin, mining it 24/7, and washing it clean with energy bills buried deep in city records. And no one had noticed until Arielle. Arielle knew she had 2 options. 1. Report what she'd found to her supervisor and risk triggering an internal shutdown, if not retribution from the people behind it. 2. Or use the information, leverage the system she knew better than anyone, and pull off something she had only ever dreamed about. It wasn't greed. It was necessity. In early 2021, Arielle learned that her daughter June would lose access to her government-sponsored behavioral therapy plan due to budget cuts. The monthly $1,900 bill would now fall entirely on Arielle. She had exactly $273 in her checking account. Her credit cards were maxed. Her apartment lease was due for renewal, and her landlord had already warned of a 15% rent increase. Something inside her broke. For years, she played by the rules, worked weekends, never complained, never called in sick. And what did she get? A boss who ignored her, a city that slashed services, and a paycheck that barely kept the lights on. But now she had access to something far more valuable than city benefits. She had the exact blockchain wallet locations where the cartel was routing their crypto earnings, embedded within the city's power logs. Every site, every IP address, every active mining rig was silently communicating with crypto wallets spread across the world. She could see the network updates in real time. She didn't need to steal the hardware. She didn't need to walk into a building. She just needed to intercept the authentication keys during one of their automated power resets, something the cartel had scheduled to avoid overheating their rigs. Every Monday at 3 a.m., the systems performed a power cycle reboot across 3 major mining sites. And during that 14-minute blackout window, wallets had to re-authenticate using temporary tokens issued through the blockchain's internal timer. If she could redirect those authentications, if she could inject a script before the nodes came back online, she could drain the wallets as if she were one of their approved endpoints. All she needed was a blackout. March 7, 2021, 3:18 a.m. The exact time the cartel's mining rigs shut down to prevent thermal overrun. Arielle had been preparing for 6 weeks. She'd written the script by hand, buried within a remote access tool she could launch from a city-issued tablet during her grid inspection route. The code mimicked a normal authentication signature, but redirected the mining site's outgoing tokens to a private set of wallets she created on Monero, one of the hardest cryptocurrencies to trace due to its privacy features and stealth addresses. The key to everything was a rolling blackout, scheduled under a false maintenance order she created using the city's legacy scheduling platform. She carefully picked a low-risk area, abandoned industrial buildings, an old cable station, and half a dozen parking structures. The real targets were buried inside the industrial zone, hidden behind shell companies with names like North Axis Logistics and Mirage Petrochem. The system confirmed her request. Grid segment, Toronto Zone 4A. Duration, 14 minutes, 23 seconds. Reason, transformer relay inspection and load balancing. It sounded so official, no one asked questions. She activated the shutdown manually at 3:18 a.m., her tablet connected to the backup node she had hardwired weeks earlier. As the power blinked out across the block, she launched her script, 12 lines of code. That's all it took. At exactly 3:19 a.m., 3 of the cartel's crypto wallets registered unauthorized token authentication, as expected during a reboot. But instead of connecting back to their servers, the tokens routed directly to Arielle's shadow wallet chain. Her script immediately transferred the balance from each wallet to a rotating list of shell addresses she'd established across Singapore, the Netherlands, and Liechtenstein, each through privacy-focused crypto exchanges. The total amount? $22.1 million in digital assets. Once the wallet data confirmed the sweep, she deleted the script, destroyed the tablet, and dumped in the furnace room of the utility van she'd borrowed under a co-worker's ID. By the time the city's power grid restored itself at 3:32 a.m., the funds were gone. So was the code. So was Arielle. And so was June. At 5:45 a.m., Arielle clocked out using a badge swipe from a station 8 kilometers from her actual work zone. She had given her badge to a friend on the midnight shift, telling him she was working a remote test and would owe him a favor. The friend, clueless, agreed. At 6:12 a.m., surveillance at Toronto's Union Station recorded a woman with short-cropped hair, heavy glasses, and a red trench coat walking hand in hand with a teenage girl. No one thought anything of it. That was the last confirmed sighting of Arielle Cross and her daughter June. When Arielle failed to report to work the next day, no red flags were raised. She had filed for a 3-day leave to take care of a family emergency. It wasn't until March 11th, for days later, that things unraveled. The first sign something was wrong came not from the police. It came from a cartel accountant in Mexico City. 3 wallets had gone dark, and the cartel's blockchain analyst quickly confirmed the impossible. The tokens had been re-authenticated and swept mid-cycle, which should have been impossible without internal server access. They didn't know who did it, but they knew it happened in Toronto, and they wanted blood. The fallout was immediate. The mining locations at Dorset Lane and Melrose were torched within 24 hours. No one called 911. The city assumed it was another warehouse fire, common in abandoned districts. But forensic units later found burned crypto hardware, severed fiber optic cables, and even anti-tamper explosives rigged to destroy drives the moment temperatures reached critical thresholds. In the days that followed, city officials realized someone had exploited their infrastructure to assist in a major crime. But it wasn't until the Department of National Security and Cyber Operations got involved that the scale of Arielle's actions was understood. The investigators identified the rerouted power nodes. They backtracked her scheduling authorization. They reconstructed what little they could from charred access logs. And what they found shocked everyone. A single person, someone with no criminal record, no military training, and no known accomplices, had completely dismantled a $60 million operation with a tablet, a blackout, and a stolen maintenance van. Her apartment had been cleaned out. Her hard drives were smashed. Even June's school withdrawal forms had been submitted under a Dr. Guardian name, claiming her uncle would be homeschooling her. That guardian didn't exist. The address listed on the paperwork, a parking garage downtown. She had thought of everything. By March 15th, 2021, news of the crypto blackout had spread to certain encrypted corners of the dark web frequented by syndicate enforcers, cybercriminals, and black market brokers. What they all agreed on was terrifying. Someone had successfully hijacked a cartel-linked crypto wallet cluster mid-mining operation, a feat that required expert timing, technical mastery, and suicidal courage. The cartel behind the operation, La Alborada, a powerful splinter group from northern Mexico, was known for one thing above all else: absolute retaliation. No one stole from them and lived. And yet, someone had. They didn't care who Arielle Cross was. All they needed to know was how to find her. Within days, cartel operatives landed in Toronto under the guise of a construction firm, brought in to assess fire damage at Dorset Lane. Investigators wouldn't learn the truth for weeks, but by then, the operatives had already bribed customs officials, hacked portions of the city's substation logs, and compiled employee records from Toronto Powerlink. One name stood out. A. Cross, electrical lead, grid maintenance division, level 4 system access. They located her personnel file, her address, her daughter's name, her therapist's office, even her grocery store. But Arielle was already gone. The woman they were hunting had covered her tracks with a precision more common among intelligence agents than power engineers. She had withdrawn cash in small, spread-out amounts over 11 months, never enough to trigger alerts. She used burner phones purchased at different pharmacies under fake names. And she had something no cartel bounty hunter could override. Time. Arielle had started preparing before the theft even happened. She knew the day would come when they'd come for her, so she made sure there would be nothing left to find. While the cartel activated its global informant network, something else was happening on the Canadian side, an invisible investigation fueled by quiet dread. At first, city officials treated the March blackout as a scheduling fluke. But after internal audits revealed tampered maintenance logs and ghost access patterns inside the grid software, a deeper probe was launched. That's when they discovered the unauthorized shutdown order, filed from a user ID linked to Arielle Cross. The file trail was faint but undeniable. She had logged in from a backup access port, a rarely used terminal reserved for field diagnostics, nearly impossible to trace. Toronto PowerLink escalated the breach to the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity, CCCS, which quickly flagged a national security threat. Why? Because the system Arielle manipulated was connected, albeit indirectly, to the Provincial Energy Control Network, making it a potential vector for attacks on public infrastructure. What they didn't realize was that this wasn't a terrorist act. It was a surgical strike with a moral agenda. The CCCS handed over the case to a joint task force operating in cooperation with the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. That's when an agent named Miles Danton, a digital forensic specialist with background in criminal profiling, noticed something curious in Arielle's data trail. She had searched for three things obsessively: extradition loopholes in South American countries, autism-friendly schooling in non-extradition nations, offshore crypto laundering detection methods. That's when it hit him. This wasn't just a heist, Danton would later say. It was an escape plan, carefully constructed around a very specific set of needs: a mother, a daughter, and a clean digital slate. The government was no longer looking for a hacker. They were looking for a ghost. Then came the video, an event that turned everything upside down. Exactly 31 days after the blackout, a package arrived at the office of a Toronto-based independent journalist named Arielle Cross, who ran a YouTube channel called Digital Deep Cuts. It was unmarked, with no return address, just a USB drive and a printed note. This isn't about the money. It's about what they were using it for. Raya uploaded the video 2 hours later. It would receive over 3.6 million views in 48 hours before being taken down. The video showed a woman in silhouette, seated in front of a large monitor, displaying a live feed of cryptocurrency wallets being drained. Her voice was calm, mechanical, but powerful. "This is not theft," she began. "This is extraction from parasites. They sell death and call it commerce. They launder blood money using city infrastructure paid for by citizens. And nobody stops them, not because they can't, but because they're paid not to." Behind her, scrolling text revealed what appeared to be internal logs from cartel-affiliated power nodes. IP addresses used to disguise mining farms, and wallet IDs tied to known narcotics routes. They run on power we subsidize. They hide behind companies that don't exist. And their money funds destruction. If you're watching this, understand I didn't disappear. I unplugged. She held up a newspaper. The front page, March 5th, 2021, crypto cartels expand north. Her voice returned, sharper now. The money's already gone, dispersed in nonprofits that fight the very system these killers built. Let the corporations hunt. Let the cartels rage. They'll never find me, because you can't track someone who refuses to stay on your grid. Then the screen went black. In the final frame, a string of hexadecimal text flashed for exactly 3 seconds, a blockchain verification code that, when traced, led to 6 different charitable donations made in Monero to clinics across Colombia, Peru, and Canada that specialize in addiction recovery, child trafficking prevention, and community redevelopment. The funds have been laundered into justice. The hacker was gone, but her mission had only begun. Within a week of the video, 6 theories flooded the internet. 1. Arielle Cross was dead, taken out by the cartel, and the video was pre-recorded. 2. She was working for a rogue government agency, running a silent war on crypto cartels. 3. She had faked her own disappearance and was now living off the grid in a remote island nation, helping victims using the cartel's own money. Law enforcement chased every thread. But Arielle had erased herself so completely, there was nothing left to find. Her bank accounts had been closed. Her apartment lease was terminated 2 weeks before the heist. June's school records had been scrubbed and withdrawn. Her car was found torched in a rural area near Mississauga with fake plates. She had left no fingerprint behind, just questions. And a message: you can't catch someone who understands the system better than you. It was supposed to be over. The funds were gone. The system had been bypassed. The trail was cold. But in late September 2021, 6 months after the blackout, a Metro Toronto power technician performing routine maintenance discovered something strange behind a dead junction box in an underground tunnel near the waterfront. The box was rusted shut and hadn't been in use for over a decade. It wasn't on any current maintenance logs, and it certainly wasn't on the official electrical grid map. Inside, the technician found a plastic-wrapped envelope sealed in industrial tape. He turned it in, assuming it was trash. Inside the envelope were a USB stick, a printed screenshot of a crypto dashboard, a photograph of a woman and child standing beside a ferry terminal in what looked like coastal South America. The USB was clean, no viruses, no traps. But what it held would restart the entire investigation. The drive contained 1. A list of 16 offshore wallet addresses, each with exact timestamps, transfer notes, and cryptographic fingerprints. 2. A handwritten note, digitally scanned. You thought the story ended with me, but it only started with what I took. I've left behind the map. Now it's someone else's turn. Authorities verified the wallet addresses and confirmed that over $4 million had been transferred after the initial heist. Someone, or possibly Arielle herself, had continued rerouting cartel funds long after the original theft. And those wallets matched activity from energy farms in Paraguay and Uruguay, known hotspots for illicit mining operations run through shell corporations. Was Arielle operating from South America? Had she passed the baton to someone else? The photograph offered more intrigue. The woman bore a striking resemblance to Arielle, only her hair was longer, her skin slightly darker from sun exposure. The child, wearing a sun hat and sandals, appeared to be June, smiling and holding a small wind-up toy. Behind them, a fairy sign that read Valdivia, Salida 1500 hours. Valdivia is a small city in southern Chile. Canadian officials reached out to Chilean immigration. There were no entries under the name Arielle Cross, nor any aliases tied to her real identity. But a Canadian citizen named Danica Lucier had entered Chile in mid-May 2021 with a child listed as Mireille Lucier. The woman's passport had no photo match on file due to a known glitch during a system upgrade in April. Authorities couldn't verify the identity, at least not without facial recognition. When Interpol requested footage from Valdivia's ferry terminal, what they saw was chilling. A woman with long braids, wearing a fisherman's coat, sunglasses, and carrying a child-sized suitcase. A girl with earmuffs, fidgeting with a string of beads. June's classic coping behavior. Both boarding a passenger ferry to Cartel, a small coastal town with fewer than 6,000 residents and spotty internet coverage. From there, the trail went dead. The ferry manifest listed two names, Danica and Mireille Lucier, but no one by those names was registered at any hotel, apartment, or municipal office in Cartel. One fisherman later reported seeing a woman and child matching that description traveling upriver by boat, paying in cash, speaking fluent Spanish, and disappearing into the jungle outside the neighboring town of Maffel. No one has seen them since. To this day, no one knows for certain where Arielle Cross and her daughter June are. Theories swirl across forums and podcast episodes that Arielle now works with underground activist groups, helping them rear out crypto from criminal networks to rehabilitation programs. That she changed her appearance through surgery and lives among the coastal villages of Latin America, teaching June how to live off-grid. That she may have died, either from cartel retaliation or in the dangerous terrain where she fled. But here's what we do know. $22 million disappeared in a blackout. At least $4 million more was moved in the following months. All of it originated from wallets tied to La Barata, a cartel known for brutal crackdowns and untouchable money laundering systems. And the woman responsible? A single mother who worked a blue-collar job, had no criminal history, and used nothing more than her technical brilliance and unwavering love for her daughter. In December 2022, a year and a half after the heist, a blog post appeared anonymously on a site hosted through the TOR network. The post was titled, "For those still watching the grid." The message was short, but powerful. They taught me how to survive, but never expected me to fight back. I've watched them destroy neighborhoods and bury kids with addictions they fed. So I took back what was never theirs and gave it to the ones they hurt. Don't call me a thief. Call me a correction. I won't return. But I never left. AC. Whether Arielle Cross is alive or not is still unknown. What is certain is that she pulled off one of the most remarkable digital heists in modern history, without violence, without a crew, and without leaving a single fingerprint behind. She didn't just disappear. She rewrote the rules. She became a ghost in the system, not just for the government, but for the criminals who had long believed themselves untouchable. Every time a mining server blinks, Every time a digital wallet shows a zero balance, every time the grid stutters for less than a second, someone somewhere wonders, is she still out there? And maybe, just maybe, she is.